Attending Bowbend Consulting's Surviving and Thriving this summer. We are so excited you're here. And today we're going to talk about that beautiful balance between structure and unstructure. That is one of the wonderful things that summer allows parents to do, and allows for kids, because the schedule tends to slow down just a little bit. Instead of getting up at 6, maybe you're getting up at 7 or 8. And instead of getting out of work at 5 for the kids with, sports after school or drama after school, maybe you're getting home from camp around 4. And so you've got that little extra leeway time sometimes. Or maybe your kids like mine are at home for most of the summer, and you're trying to figure out, how can I get any work done with all my children at home? And so today is the day for thinking about that and just getting a couple tips and tricks to help you through. So we're going to talk about the benefits of structure, and what that looks like in their brains and what's great about that for kids. And then we're going to go through some examples. And then we'll talk about some of the benefits of unstructured or unstructured play, and then take a look at what that might look like as well. So here we go. First, I think this is, I just always like to incorporate a little bit of stuff I learned when I was a teacher. And one of the things I learned as a teacher that really blew my mind was that our brains really seek pattern and pleasure. And so, when our kids are doing things, it's sometimes just the way that their brains are made. Their brains love patterns, which kind of should cue us towards thinking about routines. And then our brains love pleasure, which helps us think about things like unstructured play. And so you'll be able to see today how those two things really kind of are driving motivators for our kids and us as well, actually, particularly as we're learning. And so we'll look at how that plays out. So let's start with structure. Let's talk about some routines. So if we think about, as teachers, you can think about routines like, all right, every day we have the same structure in the classroom, or if something is always listed on the board in the same way, or I always get your attention in the same way. And those routines are things our kids are really good at during the school year. They just, it helps move the day along. It helps with transitions. So if you're a parent, this is something that you can capitalize on. Your kids are great at routines. And if you think about it, routines can create a feeling of safety because they know what's coming. They don't have to guess. It's not like they wake up and they're going, oh, what's going to happen today, right? It's like, oh, I know. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to make my bed. And then I'm going to go down for breakfast. And the Cheerios are going to be sitting right there on the counter. And I can pour my own bowl, no matter if anybody else is woken up or not. And that's just a feeling of safety. It's also sort of like the Steve Jobs stories about how he always wore all black. That routine just freed up a lot of that mind space for him, according to the stories, right? But if you think about it, that's the same for your kids, right? The decision fatigue and, that energy that it takes for them to think about, okay, well, what's going to happen next? That's kind of removed when you have routines as a parent. And then you can also think about, routines are so good because it helps your kids establish habits that you want them to have during the school year. So, for example, my children fight me for whatever reason. I think it's because none of us are morning people and we don't like waking up on time, but they fight me about brushing their teeth in the morning. I'm like, did you brush your teeth? And it's always no. And so this summer, I'm like, we are establishing that routine. Like, the first thing you guys are going to do every day before you come downstairs is brush your teeth. And, I think if you get enough practice during the summer, then during the school year, it's automatic and you're not having to remind them. So you can start as a parent thinking about, what are the routines I want my child to establish during the summer that then it's habit. I don't have to ask them, right? Maybe it's unloading the dishwasher or doing their own laundry. Or sorting their own laundry if they're little. I also think it's important to think about, this kind of ties in with safety, but it's also pretty calming. I don't know about y'all, but when my kids are home during the summer, there's a funny energy flow during the day that sometimes I can feel it coming and I'm like, oh no, we're getting into a fight, or oh no, we're getting into just like kind of those wild, crazy giggles that I don't know how to deal with, even though I used to be a teacher, right? And having a routine is incredibly calming for kids because they kind of know what's coming and they can self manage a little bit their emotions. It's sort of like as a teacher when you post the schedule on the board and the kids they stop asking you when's lunch, or when's recess, because they can see when it's coming. It's the same thing for you as a parent at home. When your kids know what's coming, when they know the routine, there's a calmness that comes with that as a benefit. And then obviously, I mentioned some of this with teaching, but it helps with your transitions, right? So I always laugh when had littler kids. Our worst part of the day was getting from the car into the house at the end of the day. There was always some sort of drama, wailing and gnashing of teeth, shoes splayed over everywhere. And I was feeling frazzled, and it was just my least favorite time of day. And that transition time was really hard. But once we started to establish some routines and really practice them, okay, when we get home, you hang up your backpack. That's a routine you have. You don't even have to think about it. We're going to practice. It just made life a little bit easier. So let's talk a little bit about the brain. I think what's cool about routines is it really can help our kids who are developing this front part of your brain. It's called the prefrontal cortex. And it is the zone for all things executive functioning, like, sequencing, planning, if you're thinking about evaluation, decision making, working memory, all that kind of stuff. Your sweet kids, that's not really developed. But every time that you have a routine, it helps compensate for some of that non-development, right? You're like, why did you do that? They're like, I don't know. Well, it's because that prefrontal cortex is still developing. And so if we think about routines, you can think about they're almost like little pathways that are helping your kids make the right decision, even when things like summer is a little bit more unstructured. So here's some examples of some routines that you can implement as a parent in your own home this summer. Of course, we can think of some more. And if you have some ideas for some, feel free to throw them in the chat, or you can unmute and jump on if you want to. But having a consistent wake up time and bedtime. Now, I don't know about y'all, but we do not have a consistent wake up time in the summer. Our routine is you wake up when you wake up. Starting in August, we will probably start to practice that alarm, getting up on your own, all that kind of stuff. But we do have a pretty set bedtime because otherwise it's just 10 p.m. chaos. And so that routine, the kids know, okay, it's 8 o'clock. It's time for us to go upstairs, brush teeth, and hop in bed. Having a morning routine for your kids, like when you wake up, you make your bed, you brush your teeth, you get yourself dressed, you put your dirty clothes in the dirty clothes hamper, or whatever it is. Just something that's like before you come downstairs or before you walk into the kitchen. These are some things that you need to have done. And with little kids, we'll talk a little bit about having a list and posting it, but those are little routines that you can do. I think I'll talk a little bit in a minute about having an agenda and sharing the plan, but so we'll come back to that one in a second. But I think also summer is a great time for chores. So if you're thinking about, okay, I want to give my kids some responsibility, or I want to teach them a little bit about character, or they are getting spoiled and they need to know that, the toilet paper fairy doesn't magically change the roll, whenever it's empty, whatever it is. Summer is a great time to have some routines around chores, whether it be unloading the dishwasher. We mentioned laundry, changing out the trash can in their bathroom, all these little things that no matter what age your kids are, they can do. This is a great moment for that. I would also say with transitions, if you think about as teachers, a lot of times, like in elementary school, for example, if they want their kids' attention, they might say bum, ba, bum, bum, and then the kids say bum, bum. And it's amazing. The teachers can get 40 kids quiet in a minute, or less than a minute, 10 seconds. And then at home, I don't know about y'all, but I sometimes feel like in the summer, I'm going to my kids like, hey, pay attention. I'm talking. And I'm like, how do I not know how to do this? I'm a former teacher. Like, I should be able to have some sort of cue. Well, that's something that this summer we're going to work on. It's like, when I want your attention, I'm going to have a cue for that, where maybe that's a because that's always a transition, right? They're doing something and it's hard for them to transition out when they need, I need their attention or something. Or maybe it's, hey, whenever it's lunchtime, you're always going to come up and help me set the table. Or whenever it's post lunchtime, you're always going to put your dish in the dishwasher. And so those little routines can really help with those transition times too. And again, we talked a little bit about cultivating habits where suddenly it's not something they have to think about or that you have to remind them of. They just do it, which is what we want as parents, right? How amazing would it be if just after lunch, your child says, "Hey, thank you so much for lunch. I'm going to put my dish in the dishwasher and tidy up my space." Like, ooh, that's what I hope happens at our house. So I'll show y'all. I said we were going to talk about agenda and sharing the planning. So
Let me ask you one question, Peyton. Like,
absolutely.
I mean, it's amazing. Like, I love it. And I was just kind of replaying my whole morning in my mind. And like, I had to ask Virginia to brush her teeth like 5 times. And finally I got down on her level and I was like, I'm not going to ask you again. Like like the toothbrush is here, like it's got toothpaste on it. Like put the freaking thing in your mouth and brush your teeth. How do you do this without like nagging? And then also like, how do you, I mean, the part of me is like, and I don't love this habit, but like, okay, so we've got, you got to get your shoes and socks on, you've got to do your hair, you've got to brush your teeth, you've got to get your water bottle ready to go. And if you do all those things, then you can watch 5 minutes of TV. Like, I hate to like have that carrot, but like, is that such a bad thing too? I don't know.
Not a bad thing. I think that, the magic phrase of when and then, right? It's like, when you have done this, then you may do this. When and then is like such a crucial, I feel like, thing, right? Because like, same thing for teachers. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but it's like, when you have finished your homework, then you can have some reading time. And it doesn't have to be TV. You can think about other carrots too, right? We'll get ice cream after camp today, or and it doesn't have to be something every day. If you look at what's on the screen right now, like I remember when our kids were little, my daughter had the hardest time getting up out of bed. I mean, it was awful. She takes after her mother. And so I said, okay, I've got a little chart for you. And if every day, we did this when she was probably in kindergarten. And I said, if every day you wake up with your alarm this week and you put a little check mark, you make your bed, you wake up with your alarm, and I don't have to come in and make you do it. Then when you do that and you put a check every day, then we'll get some ice cream on Friday after school. So you can also extend those carrots. So it's not like every day you're like, we're going to do this, right? Does that kind of help a little
Yeah,
bit?
no, that absolutely. Yes.
So this is what I'll show you. This, I just took a picture of what my like third day of summer. This summer we started doing at our house. So like, again, you can make it much prettier, you can make it better, but every day or every night before I go to bed, I make a list of our when then chores. So like, when my kids have finished these things, then they may have the rest of the day for unstructured play. And so they can invite a friend over, they can, ask me if they want to go swimming or whatever. And honestly, like, this list probably takes them an hour, maybe two. So I usually have from like 7:30 from when they wake up till now. So you could implement something like this on the weekends if you're a working parent. You can implement something like this, a shorter list for your morning. If you have kids who can't read yet, you can do it with pictures. I did that when they were little. It would like a picture of a toothbrush, picture of a bed, like made, picture of shoes and socks, like put your stuff on. And so and kids love stickers. So if you want to do this with like a sticker chart, if you wanted to do that, we just do a check mark because I'm lazy. um and so and these are things that, like, sometimes it's like, I just really don't want to do this. Like, I did not want to clean that bathroom toilet, and I said, okay, y'all all have to go down there and clean it. And I figure by the time 3 kids have cleaned the toilet, it's going to be clean. So, but like, you can kind of add whatever you want to on your list. And there's something kind of magic about the first day we did this. I cannot lie. It felt like mutiny. It was like I was torturing my children. They were like, Mom, it's summer, but blah, blah, blah. But like I said, with routines, I mean, number one, you stick to it because guess who's the boss? You. Second, once they got done and they realized this wasn't going to take them all day, then they could easily, they were like, oh, and so now every morning they walk downstairs and they look for their list on the kitchen counter. And like this morning, we had kind of an unusual morning, an unroutine morning. I had to take my son to a doctor's appointment. And after the doctor's appointment, he said, do we have chores today? And I said, no, we don't. And so sometimes you can treat your kids, and like having no chores after having chores every day, that's a treat. Right. And so eventually you can start to say, okay, well, maybe one day a week you don't have to make your bed, or one morning a week you don't have to brush your teeth. I mean, maybe not that one, but whatever it is that's kind of driving your kids nuts, you can give them little gifts on that. So if y'all have ideas for chores and things that you would have your kids do, like their daily agenda, throw those in the chat, because I know that like I would love ideas. I have a whole list, like blow out the garage, pressure wash the driveway, little things like that they can do, and it's not hard, and but it's also kind of like big kid stuff, I guess. Okay, so any questions or anything about that before we move to unstructured play real quick? Okay, so play and risk, when we talk about play, I'm not talking about going to baseball practice. I'm talking about unstructured, mostly unsupervised play. And so if you think about it, like, as a parent, a lot of times, especially when our kids are little, it's like we have to be there. We intervene. We make sure they're safe all the time. But summer is a great time for your kids to play with kind of those moments of unsupervised. And by that, I mean like they're in the basement and you're upstairs, or they're in the backyard and you're inside, or they're riding around your neighborhood and, you feel like they're safe, but they also are not kind of under your watchful eye. And there's a lot of good research around what that does for brain development, what that does for long-term memory, social learning, resilience, executive function, independence, learning how to risk take smartly, which is what we really want our kids to do. And so it's actually interesting that, going back to kind of the brain, we know a lot about play in the brain, and actually had some colleagues on from Westminster a couple months ago to do a session on play in the brain. And so I'll send that to you if you're interested, let me know. But that prefrontal cortex, where we were talking about executive function and decision making, is actually stimulated by unstructured playtime. And so I think that's really cool. Like when you say go play to your kids, you're actually helping their brain development. So as a parent, give yourself a break. On Saturday, they don't need you to play with them. They have friends. They don't need tall friends. You are their parent. And so don't be afraid to say, no, I'm not going to play with you, or no, we're not going to have all this structure during playtime. You just go find something to do. I love when my kids say, I'm bored, because then I can say, okay, great. You can either work for me, because that silver really needs some polishing, or you can go find something to do. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, I want to go find something to do. And they come up with something amazing and creative. And the TV and screens can really be that quick fallback for us as parents, who are like, all right, fine, just go watch TV. Give yourself a routine around that, right? Like, okay, we're only going to watch TV if I'm on a work call, or we're only going to watch TV if it's Friday night and we're doing a family movie night, right? You can set boundaries for yourself that then will become routines for your kids, and they won't ask. They'll stop asking because they'll know the routine, and then they'll be able to have that unstructured playtime where they're not tempted by those screens. So a couple ideas for you about some unstructured play is, number one, schedule it in. Like, especially when we're busy working parents, you're like, okay, well, when am I going to have that? Because they have baseball practice and gymnastics, and they have soccer, and all the stuff. That's play, but that's structured play. We want to give them time for unstructured play. So maybe schedule on a Saturday where you say no to some birthday parties, or you're like, we're going to skip the practice, and you just give them a little bit of time to be bored and do their own thing. Let them face that positive adversity, like out on the playground. It's like, I can't do it. I can't get up there. And you're like, okay, well, what do you think you should do next? Instead of you going in to help, right? Remove that supervision a little bit, remove that intervention from as a parent a little bit, and that will really help them get better at this. You can also, if you're like, okay, let's play cards. Can you teach me a game? That's unstructured play. You're not guiding it. Let them be the guide. And that gives them a lot of that responsibility and that independence. Games of chance are great because it's not like somebody's winning or losing, right? And that those are fun, unstructured play things. War, I don't know, like if you're bored, bring it at a restaurant instead of giving your kid a phone. Bring a deck of cards to stick in your back pocket and y'all can play war. That's a game of chance and it's like absolutely so fun for kids. The game How Well Do You Know Your Family is also a great one. We've recently been playing that one a lot. Let your kids ride their bikes to a friend's house. If y'all are close enough and you're in a neighborhood that's safe, tell them to call you when they get there. Man, that kind of unstructured independence is amazing. I would also say that getting outside is absolutely crucial for kids when it comes to unstructured play. You'll notice that they also tend to gravitate towards uh, the slightly more dangerous things outside, right? It's like they take a stick and turn it into a sword, or they um, find some rocks that are really heavy and they're building them, right? Streams are a great place to go in the summer. Just watch out for snakes. But like they can play for hours if you let them have that opportunity. And that is so good for their brain. And also just social emotional development and stuff. So what does this look like in practice? This might be a day, for example, waking up on your own. That's some unstructured time, right? You're like, my daughter is a reader and she loves to slowly wake up and then she'll read for about 30 or 45 minutes and then she'll come down real hungry. But she has her own sort of, that's her unstructured time she can do with as she wants. Again, this is a day like on a Saturday if you don't have anything, right? Then you have some structure for them. Give them capitalize on that brain time in the morning when they are actually pretty focused. Right after breakfast, you have kind of your set of chores, right? Brush your teeth, make your bed, make your own breakfast. That's a great opportunity for a routine. Clean up your own dishes, do your chores, make and clean up your lunch. Summer is a great time to teach kids, even as young as like 4 and 5, how to make a sandwich, like peanut butter and jelly or sun butter and jelly, classic. Then you have sort of your when you're done, then you choose. And then you got a lot of unstructured playtime where you don't have to entertain your kids. Let them go outside, let them say, oh, I want to make a lemonade stand, and they can be in charge of that. They make the sign, you don't have to do anything, right? And then maybe a little bit more structure at the end of the day, right? You have your family dinner, you do your shower, you brush teeth, and you go to bed at the same time every night. And that's just one sample day of what you could do in order to kind of have that nice blend of unstructured time and structured time. And if you notice suddenly the structure of chores is getting too long, skip them or do them the next day, right? You can take care of all that. So that's pretty much all I've got right now for that structure and unstructure. Any questions or anything before we close? All right, awesome. Well, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. Katie has my email address. And it's just Peyton Williams at bowbendconsulting.com. You also, if you've got feedback for me, you can fill out this, take this QR code and fill that out. I'd really appreciate it. And then upcoming this summer, I am also giving myself some unstructured time. So normally I do these every Monday, and I take a different topic every Monday. But this summer I'm going every other Monday. So we've got off next week. The week after that, I'm going to be talking about sibling rivalry. I'm reading a book on that right now. So I'll have some good data for you on that. The week after that and July 4th week will be off. And then we'll be back on 7/15 to talk about developing your authority as a parent. Like when you feel like your kids won't listen to you, what do you do besides just turn into a yelling person?